Because I'm not your God, I'm not your doctor. I'm nobody's auntie. Just ask. Okay, it's Ask for Me. You know the drill. You send me questions, I answer them if I want. So the questions I want to answer this week are these ones, and I love this first one. So this is a question. I don't know where it came from. Is it Facebook, Twitter? Well, they haven't told me. So anyway, this is the question. And I'm going to read it exactly the way it was written because it's delicious. It says, the question has always been, why do men cheat? Why do men cheat? The question has always been, it's because it's natural. On the flip, sorry, I'm gonna laugh. On the flip side, in this current generation, there's been a rise of women cheating on their husbands and boyfriends. So now, the question is, why do women cheat? Is it because of money? Is it because of revenge? Where do I start from? Women cheat because women are humans too. Human beings cheat. Okay? Women cheat, men cheat. Let's start from that. So, where shall we go from here? I really like this question. I want to take it from different points. The question has always been, why do men cheat? Why do men cheat? The person goes on to answer. The answer has always been, it's because it's natural. Let's talk about what is natural and what isn't natural. Let's start with the idea of cheat. What do people mean by cheat? I remember it was Professor Yeronke, my own mentor, who said to me once, and I must mimic her because she's fantastic, I don't understand when people say that people cheat on them. You can't cheat anybody. Nobody belongs to any other person. Your body is your body. You can't cheat for me. Surely people should know this. You can't cheat. Prof, I'm sorry, but I had to do you. So, cheating. When we go into relationships, we make emotional commitment to the other person. Part of the emotional commitment, usually, hopefully, is that you do not want to hurt the other person. So really, when you talk about cheating, you talk as though the person has... cheating connotes ownership, which is a problem because you don't own anybody. You don't own your boyfriend. You don't own your husband. Your husband doesn't own you. Vice versa. You don't own each other. You have agreed to share of each other. And part of that sharing is understanding that, because I emotionally committed to this person and their well-being, I don't want to lie to them. Because I think that the better word in relationship is honesty. Because if your relationship is guided by honesty, to go around and do something else with another person requires you to lie, requires dishonesty. And when you are dishonest in that way, then that might cause some sort of hurt. So what am I saying really? What I'm saying is that when you go into a relationship with a person, I think that what they can guarantee you is their emotional commitment to you. To guarantee sexual fidelity is a different thing completely. And often, because it's nobody wants to admit it, nobody wants to talk about it. So nobody wants to say from get-go that I can't guarantee it. I want to, but I can't guarantee it. Because oftentimes people's sexual responses is really their own. And let me explain that a little better. Oftentimes I find particularly women feel devastated. It's not just women actually, men too. They feel devastated when one person, sleeps with another person in a relationship with them, goes and sleeps with another person. They feel that it's something they have done or they are inadequate in one way or the other. No. When a person sleeps with someone else, it's really about them and whatever is going on with them. So if I cheat my husband or boyfriend with somebody else, it's not so much so he hasn't done enough, because how much are you going to do anyway? Oftentimes it's about whatever it is that I am going through or whatever it is that I see of myself. So these things are complex and it's not wise to just lump them all together. What I find fascinating is the assumption that it's natural for men to cheat but not women to cheat. All human beings have the propensity to cheat, in quotes. However, society punishes women more for cheating. It is not accepted, it is not liked, it is not loved, it is not encouraged for women to cheat. Because you must understand that marriage in particular, the premise of marriage is about ownership of property. And you must think that if you think far back, when people were gathering before pre-industrialization, where they were organizing themselves, you wanted to know if the child that had been born to you is yours, you know, so that you're not going to be paying excess costs for somebody that you did not birth. So that's why that's why all of that was arranged. Romanticism, just the idea of romantic love, is something that came later, layered upon it. First and foremost, it's an organization of people, of ownership, of property, of goods. It's a very powerful thing once you understand it that way, that that's what it is. So therefore, and because it's harder with women, because if a woman is cheating, then she can pass on a child that doesn't belong to a man to that man. So a patriarchal society therefore organized it in such a way that women were not allowed socially to cheat. Because then, just think about the chaos in their mind. Just think about it. You know, who knows whose child is what? So that's where that comes from. And so women have always felt more pressured to stay in monogamous relationship than men. Of course, things are changing now, because you have a society where through the years, because of the activities of feminism and, you know, women's rights and all of that, the concept of marriage has changed. So the consequences of cheating for men in marriages have also become higher, because in certain societies, certainly not a lot of African society, and surely not Nigerian society yet, but in a lot of societies around the world, certainly Western society, if a man was cheating the wife, you know, it's enough grounds to ask for a divorce. And if she asks for a divorce, that's enough grounds to take half of the money. So I think that one of the reasons why it might appear that certain parts of the world you have men cheating less is because the consequences are higher. And so if you think about it in terms of consequences, you will know why women seem to cheat less. However, the question was, why is it in this generation women cheat more? Is it for money? Is it for revenge? I think one of the reasons why it seems more like women cheat more, it's become more obvious that women cheat openly, is really the same thing at the end of the day. It's because society has expanded, has developed, and the consequences of a woman's cheating in certain parts of the world is not as dire as it used to be. So she's not going to be cast aside. She's not going to be, because she cheated. Women have more agency, a little more agency over themselves than they used to do in the past. But at least what I'd like to take away from all of this are a few key things. Number one, we do not own anybody. If we marry them, does not mean we own them. They can pretend to us, they can tell us what they like. And the more you allow pretense in a relationship, the higher the possibility that a person would emotionally cheat on you and possibly sexually cheat on you. Because, you know, they can't tell you how they feel. They can't tell you what's going on in their life. You know, is that to say that we should then have a situation or have a relationship where everybody is allowed to cheat? I'm not the one to tell anyone how to run their relationships. What I can say, though, is that men are socialized a certain way, and I don't think it's good for men. They are socialized to see sex as an entitlement, and to see sex as something you do to women, and to see sex as devoid of their own emotion and well-being. So I'm just having sex. You know, I don't know if that's healthy for anybody, male or female, on the long run, because I think that the best state for anyone would be a situation where you are actually having sex with someone you genuinely like, someone you genuinely care about. I'm hoping for a future where men themselves feel belittled by wanting to just sleep with a body rather than wanting to sleep with a person that they care about. If you apply those rules, then it becomes a little interesting, you know, as to why a person may be wanting to sleep with another one in relationship. So that's one. You can't really cheat because you don't own anybody. You can be disillusioned, you know, because a person is dishonest to you. because if you use the term dishonest, then it becomes clearer what is it, because it becomes dishonest to you in that way. And then it's not true that men, it is nature that men should cheat. No, it is nature that men and women should desire sex. It is nature that they should go after sex. It is learned. It is socialization that means that men feel entitled to do it nilly-willy, and women don't feel entitled to do it nilly-willy. Which other part of it is now? It's not true that women are now cheating for revenge or for money. Things are changing. When things change in that sense, where women feel more agency over their body, they might be more open about, cheating. That said, a lot of cheating was going on also in the past by so-called cheating by women that, nobody said anything about. They would discuss it in close women groups, but they don't talk about it because it's not accepted. However, can we all just get away from the cheating idea and start looking at sex as something that we do as part of our own emotional well-being? Can we also look at relationships as something we do as part of our own well-being? So I marry a woman or I marry a man because this person, being with this person, allows me to be a better version of myself, to be a great version of myself. And I want to share this person's life. We want to share each other's lives. If we did that, I think it would be much more useful. That still doesn't mean we won't have problems. We will have problems. We'll confront them as we come along. And if the problems become intractable, then we find solutions to it. However, in Professor Oyeronke's tone, you cannot cheat because you don't own. Oh, I enjoyed that. So let's see. What's the second question? Let's see. Why are Yoruba men demons? Yoruba demons. Okay, for those who don't understand the background to this, let me lay background. I think it started on Twitter, where somebody started calling Yoruba men demons. And the idea is that Yoruba men are usually so suave, so obeying, and they will dress so swagalicious. And just by their dressing and their obedience and their seeming civility, you think that they are going to be they're going to be really great lovers, attentive and loyal, monogamous and loyal. And that usually Yoruba men are never that they will be suave, they will be swagalicious, they will speak pretty, but they will sleep with anything. They will sleep with you, your cousin, your friend, and your friends, whatever. So that's the idea of Yoruba demon. They say Yoruba men are Yoruba demons. I have to defend my Yoruba brothers, okay? Yoruba men are not demons. What Yoruba men are, I think, is fascinating. And this actually is a really fascinating opportunity for a bit of cultural understanding. Because I think that a lot of things that we consider African culture, number one, there's no African culture. Because Africa is a continent of different nations and many, many different cultures. So I will speak about Yoruba culture because, well, they are calling Yoruba men demons for this reason. I think that a lot of things that we consider African culture are actually a confusion and a bastardization of Victorian ideas, Victorian philosophy, Victorian culture. I mean, so much so that the people who originated it themselves have moved on from it. It was a part of English evolution. It's not ours. So a lot of things that we consider to be our way is not our way, and I think that a lot of things are confused, which is why this Yoruba demon thing is interesting, because what people don't like is that they appear on one hand to be very Western, and then on the other hand they behave like bush men who are polygamous in nature. So this is really sweet, because you see, even though all of us like to think that we are, well, I'm not one. I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm not one. I don't think that Westernization is civilization. I think that civilization is civilization, and you can have different types of civilization. However, generally, my people like to think that Oyibo knows best. And so we have this idea that, we have become these people who are who like Judeo-Christian ideas of marriage and relationships. However, it's like that thing, people go to church, but they still go and see somebody. They still go to shrine. It's the same way that we are in many ways. So people still, they ascribe, or they like the idea of Western philosophy and culture and religion, but they tunnel back into what they think is their own philosophy, culture, and religion. However, what we think is our culture, philosophy, and religion itself has become really muddied through the centuries. So what you get is you find these young men who on the surface of it seem like, westernized men, but deep down they seem to have this Yoruba ideas of how relationships should be. But let's ask ourselves what Yoruba ideas of what relationship should be is, because actually that's what's fascinating. Because unlike Judeo-Christian conditioning and certainly Victorian way of looking at the world, the Yoruba culture in its original sense does not consider sex a sin. Yoruba culture considers sex natural. It's a natural thing. And so sex is divorced in a way from concepts of marriage. Sex is part of marriage, but sex is not of ownership, which is why in that culture, if you think back, there are little things that will give you an inkling. I would challenge anybody to answer this for me, that your great-grandmothers, if you are Yoruba, your great-great-grandmothers, how many of them were married once? Your great-great-grandfathers, how many of them married one woman? So the idea of marriage in Yoruba is really fluid. Very interestingly so, my friend Dr. Bibi Bakare, who has researched this, says there are many, many types of marriages in Yoruba land. So you could have a situation where a man has many wives. You have women who would marry over and over again. Just move, if this is not working, they move on. You have people who are married, women who are married, but they live in their father's house. So it's a very interesting culture. It's also a culture that I would like to think has the vestiges of what would have been a completely different way of looking at gender. Because if you look at things like Yoruba names, which are not gender specific, you can tell that it's just in the same way the name doesn't have a he or she. It has personhood. So the Yoruba culture puts personhood ahead of gender. And so if you look at all of those things and then try and marry it with a Judeo-Christian Victorian way of looking at the world, it becomes confusing. So deep down, let me make this excuse now for my Yoruba brothers. I think that deep down, the average Yoruba man who wants to be like his great-great-grandfather, he doesn't really mind his wife, his woman cheating, as long as he doesn't know. He doesn't really mind. And they can shoot me about this. I know, deep down, they don't really mind. They are easygoing in their idea of ownership. There isn't that stringent ownership culture in Yoruba land, because the women in Yoruba land were industrious and they owned their own industry. So when a woman goes into marriage, and you must think about it, actually in Yoruba land, once you start sleeping with a woman, you are her husband. If she has a child for you, you are her husband. If you like, there is no such a thing as bastards in Yoruba land for that reason. So this is where we come from as Yoruba people. And so the Yoruba man, the modern Yoruba man, who has a bit of confused identity, thinks that he subscribes to the Judeo-Christian way. But deep down, because he's been culturally conditioned to be a certain way, he's not that way. So that's why he seems to be a demon, because he seems to be, two-faced. He's telling you this, but that's not what he is. It's because he himself, I think he's finding his way as to whether he wants to be this or whether he wants to be Koshoku, Kosheye, So it's a very fascinating concept, and one that I actually need to give a lot more thoughts to, and one that somebody should actually do some more deep research about. So all I'm going to say to you is that, the Yoruba man is not a demon. The Yoruba man is of a culture that is actually Yorubas are hedonistic in nature. They are life-loving, party-going. They are actually, I like to think of it as a sort of evolution. Just quite evolved in thinking in that sense. So things like, this woman belongs to me, she should sit here, I belong to me. It's not really their way. You know, they would like for their women to be loyal to them, and you know, I've told you before about this. Nobody wants to own a child that they don't know if it's theirs or not. So, but if you have a situation like it is in Yoruba land, where the family will adopt a child, if this woman says that this is our child, it's our child, no. I don't know. You know, it's fascinating. I don't know where to start and where to stop. But Yoruba men are not demon. The thing you consider demonic or demon-like in Yoruba men, I think is just a confusion of old reality, new reality, and evolving reality. But I'll say again, like I said the other time, that really what matters are individuals and what makes them happy, what works for them in relationship. I think that most people are happier where there's honesty, you know, because of course to cheat really means to lie. Because what I liked about part of former Yoruba culture is that if a man says he fell in love with another woman or is interested in another woman, he has to tell his wife, he has to get her consent. You know, so that forces a kind of honesty. You know, and I think that is actually more honorable and noble than a situation where you are forced to lie. Everybody's lying. You know, because if a man comes today and says, oh, I found this other woman, I really, really love her, I want her to come and join us in this house. So me too, I can decide, okay, do I want to accept this? Is this okay by me? You know, do I like him that much? Do I actually like her? Is she nice? Will she help me? Will she, you know, you'll be able to, or you can look at it and say, that's a lot of rubbish, that's a lot of crap, I'm not going to take it, bye. You know, so you'll be able to take it. I think what hurts people and why it's called cheating is the dishonesty, is the lie, is the going around. Because when you sign up into a relationship with a person, you are signed on to be vulnerable with that person, and you don't want anybody to toy with your vulnerability. That's why it hurts. And that's what we have to focus on. Where if a person, it's the same thing with a woman, if she wants to, then she has to tell this person that I've fallen in love with another person, I want to be with another person. So if you put that as a yardstick, then it becomes a different thing. So if a person just wants to sleep with another woman, it will become a problem, because the other woman too will not accept for you to just come and sleep with me. You want to sleep with me, you like me, tell your wife, tell your girlfriend, tell your mother, tell your father, so the whole community knows that you are honoring me too. So I think that we should maybe forget the concept of ownership that comes with cheating and take on the concept of honesty. All right? Okay, so I think I want to go away from this who's cheating who. Let's see. This says, hello, Miss FUNMI. I like that. Miss FUNMI sounds good. I'm 19 and I came to the US at 13. As you may know, kids are horrible, and being different, I was a target of their bullying. It left me with low self-esteem and anxiety that I still suffer from today. I returned to Nigeria about a year ago and stayed for 5 months. I noticed my self-esteem increased and my anxiety calmed. Maybe it has to do with the Nigerian spirit and just being around my people. I didn't feel the need to question myself. I've since returned and noticed my self-esteem issues and anxiety are back. I'm not sure what to do, Miss FUNMI. I've tried therapy, by the way, if that was your recommendation. Are there things that you've practiced that I can implement in my life? Thank you. I'm going to start from being 19. I'm sitting here now and trying to think back to when I was 19 and what I was like. And I will say this to you. This is where I'm going to start from. In the first instance, I'm not going to say just go and get therapy. We'll come back to the issue of therapy later. I'll start from being 19. It's a very, very difficult time. And one of the things I pity, I feel sorry for the younger people about today, is the ways in which people are being forced to grow up faster than they ought to, and the ways in which technology has enabled bullying and has enabled, you know, repression. Even when it enables freedom, it also enables repression. So I'll start with being 16 and then we'll come to living in a different culture. I mean, 19 I mean. 19 is hard. You know, it's a hard time. It's a time when you are not sure of yourself, where you're not sure of so much. You are evolving. You know, you're going to question everything. You're going to doubt everything. You're not going to be sure. It's very rare to find a self-assured, you know, confident 19-year-old. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that you are still trying to find yourself. And I really plead that young people be allowed the space and the time to find themselves. Bullying is universal and is horrible. Young people are horrible to young people. I think it becomes double difficult when you are in a different culture. And I'm not going to pretend about this. I'm going to say it as it is. It's difficult to be black in a non-black world. It is. I'm a grown woman. You know, I live half my time in the UK. I deal with it, and I find it hard even at my age. I can imagine what it's like when you are younger. And I don't even have to work in an environment, you know, on a daily basis, in an environment where I need approval. If you had to do that, then it becomes a problem. And I'll tell you why it's difficult. And I've tried to define it before, you know, and not always been very successful at it. One of the things I hated about growing up was the fact that my gender was thrown in my face. So they would say, oh, you can't do this because you're a woman. Oh, women shouldn't do this. I didn't like that at all. I really didn't like that. I didn't like being considered first a woman. I wanted to be considered first a human person. I wanted to be human first. So it's the same thing, or even worse with race, where first and foremost, you are seen as a color, as a person. So it becomes difficult, and it's difficult both ways, because sometimes people who are doing it are not actively racist. They are biased maybe, and then some people are actively racist. Either way, you are facing this thing that doesn't allow you to be fully human. Every time you're not allowed to be fully human, it's a chink in your armor, your emotional armor. You know, it just chips away at you. And so it's important that actually you recognize it when you went to Nigeria. It wasn't the same. We'll come back to living in Nigeria because, you know, there are no perfect answers and there are no perfect communities. There is no perfect place to be. What I'll say about living in America and dealing with particularly what we seem to see of America of today. I mean, I don't live in America, so I don't know how bad it is. All I can do is go by what I see, you know, but from what we see, it seems even a little more difficult recently to be black in America. So you have two things that are running concurrently. You are young. By the fact of being young is to try and find yourself, to be unsure, to have a bit of low self-esteem. And then because you are black, you are not allowed full humanity unless you struggle for it, unless you insist on it, unless you force it. But because you are still young, the skills to do that are still something that you are developing. You know, I don't know if I'm helping you in this room. The first thing I'm trying to tell you is to give yourself a break. You know, just give yourself a break. Allow the fact that you even recognize that you have low self-esteem is a good step in the right direction, because it means self-awareness. You are self-aware. Many people are not aware of themselves in that way. So you do recognize that this is a thing, and I want to work towards it. Whilst living in any community, and this will be true of anywhere you live in the world, I think is to actively seek meaningful friendships and relationships. One of the most horrible things in the world is loneliness, or not having a place where you can express yourself. I think that's why it's difficult also when you're outside of your culture. When you're in Nigeria, you feel freer to express yourself. Because I don't know what your situation is, I don't know if you can just move back to Nigeria, which I must warn you is not necessarily a solution. I don't know if where you are, where you live now, you can build a more supportive base of people that you can feel freer with. And I'll encourage you to be not just people of your own culture, or your own religion, or your own gender, or your own nationality, but to seek people not on the basis of anything other than the way that they treat you as a human being, the kind of ideas you share, the kind of times you share, if they make you happy. You have to actually work at it to find those relationships, because it's also easier to focus on the bad things. So oftentimes, I mean, I get a lot of people sometimes come and they just be attacking you. You say something, they will attack me, throws, attack. And in 2008, I stopped blogging because I was so attacked by trolls. That time I didn't understand it. I shriveled up. I just couldn't cope. I lost my voice. And I'm never going to let anybody do that again, because what happened with that is that I focused so much on those people sending hate, I didn't notice the people sending love. It is true that majority of people don't care about us. They don't care about us because they're busy with themselves. Very few people hate us, and there are few people who love us. We've got to focus on the people who love us. Now, about living when you go back to Nigeria, yes, of course, you are with more people who are like you. By human beings, we think we are rational and we think we're evolved. We are not. We have to learn to be that way. We feel threatened by others. So just like the people who are there feel threatened by you being different. When you are home, you are now with the people that you are similar to, so you are in a comfort zone. It's a good thing. If, for example, you wanted to move back to Nigeria or to find a job in Nigeria, that would be nice, if that's what you wanted to do. But you have to plan it and you have to know that's what you want to do, because living in Nigeria itself is different from visiting Nigeria. One of my own greatest desire is that Nigerians will face Nigeria so that we can make Nigeria better, so that more people can choose to live in Nigeria if they want. Because I know that a lot of people do not live in Nigeria, not because they don't want to live in Nigeria, but because Nigeria just doesn't allow them to fully blossom as people. So that's what I can say to you about that. It's about getting therapy. Therapy is good, but I'll also say that you must be careful who you get. It's the same thing like doctors. I found it to be very interesting. I found this interesting thing, that not all doctors are your doctor. You have to find a doctor that sees you fully as a human person. One that sees you first, not as black or female, but that sees you as a person. I don't know if you know what that means. It's the same thing with therapists. You want to find somebody who sees you, who understands what your situation is, because a person can learn to be a therapist, a person can learn to be a doctor, but adding context, adding nuance, which will give them a better diagnosis of your situation, is a different matter. And so you have to be careful where you are getting support from. But what I like to say to you is to give you comfort that a lot of this will pass. One day you are going to be a 20-something-year-old woman who is a lot more confident. One day you are going to be a 30-something-year-old woman who is even more confident. One day you are going to be a 40-something-year-old woman who is much more confident. And one day you're going to be an 80-something-year-old woman who is so assured of herself. Yeah, like, what's they going on about? Give yourself the space to grow. All the people who are bullying you now, you are not even going to remember their name in the future. I swear to you, you won't even remember them if you don't allow them get you down. Focus on those who care about you. Focus on what works in America where you live. What is good for you. Focus on that. Try to not be dragged down and dragged in by the things that are more negative. Seek a more supporting group or community of people, whether it's a church, whether it's a mosque, whether it's the synagogue, whether it's a temple, whether it's no religion whatsoever, whether it's friends, whether it's whatever. The one thing you shouldn't do is then find one person who you then go and lash onto emotionally. Sort of like grab onto that person as though this is the person that completes me, the only person who understands me. You are the only person who understands you. You are the only person who can fix you. You are the only person who will do you. And you have to get on the process now. So I don't know who you are, but I really, really wish you well, because I know how hard it can be. Okay, that's where I'm going to end today. I hope I was able to help her. And it sounded like a her, because I couldn't tell what gender. It sounded like a her. So next week, we are going to take on other topics. Send me any questions. You can send me questions about politics and economics and food and what you might call it. I'll answer them if I want, when I want. Bye now.